To the Public Education Subcommittee. It looks like we have a quorum. We are missing two of our members, but I'm sure they'll be joining shortly. But we have folks who are here who also need to get going for other appointments. So we will go ahead and take up some of those bills. The first bill is going to be Senator Norman's bill, and that is oh, you have two bills. 1097. That is SB 1097.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And, ladies of the subcommittee, this is a very important bill that I'm passionate about, and it's dealing with the Mountain Mission School, which is out in Grundy, and it's a very unusual but exciting school that's been in existence since about 1921, and it basically deals with high-risk, lower-income, underprivileged kids. They accept no government money. Everything is paid for by private funds, and I've been out and have visited the school. It's pretty remarkable. I think somewhere around 80 to 85% of them go to college. And we just needed to tweak the legislation a little bit, and there's a comparable bill, I think, in the House that is moving through. But it's been through some inadvertent changes in the past, which have been corrected, but what the bill is pretty simple does. It just indicates that any students who either reside there and live on campus. They live on campus. Most of them, there are a few day students that are there or who are affiliated with the school. And what that's doing with is that there are some instructors or counselors that live there. And so this would just cover them as well. I don't think that there is any opposition to it, but as I said, most of the students are at 200% below the federal poverty level.
Thank you, Senator, and my apologies to our staff. We did not take roll call first, so why don't we do that, and then we'll also hear the testimony from the gentlemen that you have. Okay, thank you.
He's the guy who came from Grundy.
Senator Peake, Senator Donovan,
here.
Senator Locke,
Here.
Senator Howell, Senator Hashmi.
Here.
You have a quorum,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for your courtesies. Come up here, young man. Not you. You didn't want to hear from you. You want to hear from the guy who does the work there. You can kind of up there and introduce himself and just emphasize that he does.
Please have a seat.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak with you. Of course, my name is Chris Mitchell, and I'm the current president of Mountain Mission School, which has been in existence now. We're starting our 101st year. And what this legislation would do would be just to kind of clarify some things that have been there before. That, you know, we not only serve children from our area in Virginia, but actually last year I think we had 10 different nationalities represented on our campus, which probably makes us one of the most diverse schools in the state. We also serve children just because they live within driving distance of our school. We would also like to be able to serve them if they meet those guidelines. And this will clarify that would be able to do it, that we would be able to serve those children. I mean, as it is written now, I just had my first grandchild on November the 1st. And my grandchild will not be able to attend the school without this clarification. So it's not my primary purpose, but I like that purpose.
I would just say, Madam Chairman, I had the privilege to go out there and meet some of these foreign students. I think there were some from Africa, maybe one from Morocco and stuff. I mean, it's really got to have lunch with them. They even cleaned up their own utensils and plates and food when they got through.
I think everyone will remember the 200 females that were kidnapped by the Boko Haram years ago. We actually more were kidnapped, but some escaped, and we actually were privileged to serve 8 of those at one time. And those children went on to other places and are being very successful. One of them, Lydia, just graduated law school, so we're very proud of her. We're hoping we can get her back in Grundy at Appalachian School of Law, but we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? Is there anyone who wishes to speak additionally to this bill, 1097? Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to recommend reporting. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend for reporting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Thank you very much for taking that out of place. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We will recommend reporting to the larger committee. Thank you. The next, first on the list then for today is Senator Spruill. And you have two bills, SB 818 and SB 856.
Yes, ma'am. 856 first, Madam Chair.
856 first, then.
Yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead, Senator.
Madam Chair, members, 856 deal with our students currently face more and more stress from inside and outside the school that affects their mental health and emotional health on a daily basis. This legislation, as amended, will direct the State Board of Education to develop.
Senator, do you have an amendment?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. May she, thank you.
Is there a motion for, to accept the amendment?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the amendment. All in favor? Aye.
You wanted to read the amendment?
Can you read the amendment? Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, this amendment would, at line 15, after the word program, strike selected by a local school board, so that line 18 would now read, line 15 would now read means a mental health screening program approved by the department. At line 18, after subsection B, so after the letter B, period, it would strike each local school board so that that line would now read, and it would insert the board, as in the Board of Education, so that line would now read, the board shall develop and implement a written plan for a comprehensive school counseling program. And at line 42, which is in the final enactment clause, it would strike each local school board and insert the Board of Education so that the final enactment clause would now read that the Board of Education shall develop and implement a written plan for a comprehensive school counseling program pursuant to this act by the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year.
That's my amendment, Madam Chair. Am I finished reading?
Yes, please go
This
ahead.
legislation, as amended, will direct the State Board of Education to develop a written plan for school district as a guideline for each district to have a plan in place for the purpose of providing support that meets the mental and emotional health of students.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Well, let's hear if there's anyone to speak in favor. Do you have other folks who wish to speak in favor, Senator?
I don't think so.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come on up. Please go ahead, Senator.
Before she comes up, Senator Spruill, right now we have, right now we have an issue with the availability of licensed school counselors. Is this going to be put an additional burden on school counselors?
No. I have another bill at this.
Turn on your mic.
I apologize. The second one may deal with mental health as well, but not this one.
But does that address school counselors?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Yes, Senator, please go ahead.
I agree with that concern about the availability of school counselors, but we now have the potential for schools to have psychiatry, telemedicine, telecounseling, and while the school counselors do a lot of counseling, they also have so many other responsibilities. This is almost an opportunity for us to include other professionals in, mental health treatment, analysis, or evaluation. So it may not just be the school counselors that were engaged in any program that was developed, and maybe hopefully not.
Thank you, Senator. And we have a few folks who wish to speak, so please come on we're going to ask you to come to the table and speak directly into the microphone so that our other audience members can hear.
Yes, fine. Thank you. Hi, my name is Ann Tatus. I'm from Chesterfield, Virginia. I'm curious as to how much mental health people are actually aware that is given. These are from the Family Life Standards, starting in kindergarten, mental health. It starts this Family Life Standards in every grade. Grade 1, mental health. Grade 2, mental health. And it goes on all the way through grade 10. You're welcome to keep these. These are contracts, so this would be social emotional learning, which we also have standards for, which is mental health given in the Virginia tiered structured system, the triangle. Universal mental health is already given to our children in Virginia through social emotional learning standards of learning. This is from Loudon. Behavior support services. So we're either excuse me, real quick. We're either acknowledging that law is not being followed, or that we're 50th in the nation because we're obsessed with mental health, causing mental health.
Just to clarify, you're speaking in opposition to the bill. Is that
Absolutely
correct? Okay, thank you, Ms. Tatus. Please come ahead.
Madam Chairwoman, good afternoon, committee. I represent the Family Foundation, and our concern is, as you so eloquently put, you just, the last time I was here, you really fought for the family. We're concerned that all the emphasis and money going on the counseling, when we do have great counselors in the school, we would rather see money go into outside services, and that there be a good referral program, because there's a real burden right now on teachers, counselors, and help for the family, because really that's where a lot of the mental health issues are coming from. So I appreciate that you spoke so eloquently to the strength of the family, and we would like to see better services and more services that students can be referred to. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, please come ahead.
Hi, my name is Maggie Hansford. I'm from Prince William. I appreciate the intent of this bill, but I would like to acknowledge what the woman from Chesterfield said, is that we are dealing with a lot of mental health education in our public schools. I'm a speech pathologist by trade in our schools. I have 3 boys in our schools. I believe the intent of this would be more conflict resolution, would be a good conversation to be had about teaching our students. Outside of this, I think that we do have to look at staffing and what is already taking place in our schools. So as of right now, our children in our schools are receiving mental health information from kindergarten up, but the conflict resolution would be a good start to moving this forward.
Thank you. Is there a debate as to whether or not we're going to speak?
Yes, there is. I'll go ahead and
Thank you.
So we're just trying to digest the amendments. I'm sorry,
Just
Stacey
introduce
Haney.
yourself.
Yeah, Stacey Haney with the School Board Association. So I had concerns with the original bill, and I think that the amendment resolves some of the concerns. I still think we may need to work with the senator to figure out how this is all going to work, because now that it's amended, I think what the bill says is that the Board of Ed will develop this comprehensive plan, but it also talks about implementation. And so I'm not sure how the Board of Ed is going to implement school counseling in all the local schools. So I'm not sure if we're 100% there, but I absolutely will work with the senator to try to see if we can get it there. And so I didn't want to not say anything and have that be construed as we were completely okay with it, but So I think it's a work in progress.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So there's an offer, Senator Spruill, to continue working on this between now and our next full committee meeting. Is that an offer you would like to engage with the school
Can I say
board?
one thing first, though?
Yes, please.
We suggest to let the board do it because the way the bill was originally drafted, the one local school board can do this, when this, we say, hey, wait a minute, let's make it to one. So let the state board do it. So whatever comes out is for everybody. So I have no problem if they can help me make it so they can come from just one, where it be for the whole school system, I'll be more than glad to.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Madam Chairman,
Please go
you've
ahead.
now created some problems for me with that, because I think across the state there's a wide variety of approaches to mental health and a wide variety of actually the seriousness with which various school boards have already begun dealing with it. So a move to make it universal does kind of trouble me.
Thank you, Senator.
That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the floor then?
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, were we giving him a week to work on it? Is he going to pass it by for a week, or were we going to vote on it?
My recommendation is that we make a decision as a committee, and then before the full Ed and Health Committee meets next week, that there be a presentation on any changes that the senator and his stakeholders make.
Madam Chair, I'd be more than glad to work with them if there's something that will satisfy the committee. If they can get with me afterwards, I don't know what, but if any suggestion if it can help so we can bring them back to the full committee, I'd be more than glad to.
And Madam Chairman, if I may speak to that motion.
Please, Senator.
So I do see on the line 22, be developed and implemented by a licensed school counselor. So I see better that challenge, just as you're working on this bill, because we do have an overload on our school counselors as opposed to other resources. What I really like about this is that it is screening and it's parental notification. And, you know, I've heard people say to me in the past, oh my gosh, 25% of our kids have depression. Well, over 40% of adults do. I bet we're missing a lot in kids. And it's really hard for them to learn when they have other things going on that obstruct that. So I really like that it's just screening, it's parental notification. There are a couple snags in here with workforce, but with that, I'll move that we recommend reporting, considering there's going to be some work done on it between now and then.
It's been recommended that we recommend, there's a motion on the floor that we recommend reporting. Is there a second? I will second that motion. And all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay. 3 abstentions and 1 yay.
What does that mean, Madam
That
Chair?
means next week you will.
I apologize.
That means you need to get to work with your stakeholders and make some changes, and then next week we will give a full and fair hearing to the new bill that we have and consider the bill at that point with the full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Senator, you have 818 as well.
Yes, ma'am. That 818, that let's say had the first one would have passed.
Is the mic on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That means, Madam Chair, that the first one had passed. Then 818 say 1 in 6 youth have a mental health condition, like anxiety, depression. On half receive mental health service. Earlier treatment. I'm sorry, I apologize, Madam Chair. I do have the amendment, please.
Is there a motion to accept the amendment?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the amendment. All in favor? Aye. Please go ahead, Senator.
Please.
Madam Chair, this amendment is largely technical, just cleaning up some language, but at line 37, after the word understanding, it would strike age appropriate. Also on line 37, it would strike instruction and insert a comma. And on line 38, after the word appropriate, we would strike the word on and also insert a comma, so that now lines 37 and 38, which is subdivision 7 of subsection B, would read, understanding at such grade levels as the board deems appropriate the connection between mental health and substance use disorders.
Okay, thank you. Senator, please go ahead and present.
Thank you. Early treatment is effective and can help young people to stay in school and to track the achievement of their goal. Untreated and inadequate treatment, mental health can lead to high rates of school dropouts, unemployment, substance use, arrest, incarceration, and death. In fact, suicide is the second leading cause of death from youth from age 10 to 34. Schools can play an important role in helping children and youth get their early school staff, can learn and to see what warnings and emergencies will come about if we will connect to help them. This is why I have introduced Senate Bill 818 that will direct the school board, the State School of Education, to develop and implement a grade level appropriate curriculum that will talk with students about mental health and their emotion condition.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions from committee members? Is there anyone in support of the legislation that wishes to speak?
Again, Aunt Tatus, and now that I've heard the clarification, I would get behind this, because as I showed you, it is already so non-age appropriate, and this would include parents and transparency. And so after hearing it, a uniform or some kind of concise document as to how mental health is being given now pre-K to 12 would be extremely helpful to bring parents back to the table.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, please go ahead.
Just one question, Ms. Tatus.
Yes.
When you say mental health, are you referring to the mental health curriculum as opposed to treatment?
Well, I'm referring
Ma'am, please sit
to
down.
a uniform, so we're giving mental health across the board to all children. That would be the red triangle, VTSS, also known nationally as MTSS. They're doing behavior screeners in every division, social emotional learning. It's all mental health. And parents don't know it's happening. My child came home at 11 talking about she had generalized anxiety disorder because she had been taught incessantly after being bullied for years that anxiety at 11. And I had to find this by knowing to go into her parent portal, to go into her curriculum, because we don't have textbooks. So I knew, and then I had to start digging to find out in English assignments. Everything
Ms.
is mental
Tatus,
health.
I'm going to ask you to restrict your comments just to this legislation.
Correct.
And
So
what
the
you
question
support.
of is what is and what is not mental health, because you have teachers giving mental health through social emotional learning. They're not licensed. So then what is mental health now?
So your
Is it a
statement
curriculum?
is a statement of support for this
If
bill.
the intent is to bring it to the department level for the state, then yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Please come ahead. And I forgot to explain the ground rules. My apologies. We are restricting comments both for and against on every bill. And again, I ask that you speak specifically to the bill itself that's in front of us rather than any extraneous considerations. Please go ahead.
Thank you. As this indicates in the bill, I do appreciate the intent again. However, there is no reassurances in this that there are actually educators building what would be taught with students. There is nothing in here that says the board must utilize our educators who will then be instructing our students with this, nor does it have any reassurances that they would be a part of the process to talk about mental health with our students, as they are the experts in this area. So again, a school board, the board, they don't have the background that our educators do, and this does not provide any reassurance that they would be a part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Sherry Story for the Family Foundation. We have similar concerns. First, there is a lot of mental health already in the curriculum, and we would like to see that families be given services and referral services in the community. So that would, if we expand the community services, then that would incorporate all students in private schools, so students that are homeschooled. All students would have more services on the outside for mental health. And I think that would benefit the community as a whole, and that's the Family Foundation's position. So we oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Spruill, would you care to respond to anything or to complete your comments on this?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair and members, we can't wait on the community. These kids are dying in school. Everybody see that. So if we wait on the community to do it and expect it to trickle down to the schools, we done lost the kids. So regardless of what we're saying, what you're saying, everybody agree these kids have a problem. So we got to start somewhere. So if I'm in the right ballpark, help me fix it. Don't kill it. Help me fix it. I'm willing to meet with anybody and say, hey, this could fix it, and I'm willing to do this. I'm bringing something to you to say to you, hey, this is the ballpark. I'm trying to do something to get started to help these young folks. So if I'm in going in the right direction, don't kill me. Meet with me, help me fix it, so next week I can come back and say, I met with all those concerned, they helped me fix it, and here it is again.
No one wants to kill you, Senator Spruill.
I didn't mean to kill you. I apologize.
I understand. And I think all of us certainly are working our best to try to address these very serious issues within our school systems and for our children. I appreciate you highlighting this through our legislation. Senator Howell, please go ahead.
I would like to take Senator Spruill up on his suggestion that we pass it by for this week in this subcommittee, and that you come back next week with some changes for us.
And Madam Chairman, if I may add to
Go
that.
ahead.
I think that it seems like this bill is only curriculum, standardizing curriculum, and that if the board has something, there's a public opinion period that they have to have. But I think what I'm hearing is that people would like to have more input into maybe even the process before, as it's being reviewed, that there's a work group of some sort that includes teachers and parents to maybe look at it. That's kind of what I'm hearing, is not waiting until it's all promulgated and then having a vigorous debate, but maybe having a say in how it's done.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
Senator
am
Spruill.
those who are in opposition and those who are in support. I'm in room 524. 524. Come around 524 and look at both bills, and let's put something together that I can bring back. If you help me out, I am not going to do anything but that what you want. Come to 524, ma'am, 524, help me out, and I'll bring it back. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. So we have a motion on the floor to pass by for 1 week, and Senator will return to full committee with some additional changes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion carries. We will see you next week of her
Thank
two
you, Madam
bills
Chair.
then.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you. And I hope we will get Senator Lucas eager to listen to
Oh,
all
bless
the
your heart, bless your
testimony. That might be the most challenging part. Thank you, Senator Spruill. Next on the docket, we have Senator McPike with two bills. Is Senator McPike here? There he is, right on time.
Well, you stole a pen and
I apologize.
transportation.
I missed it.
There you go. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Senate Bill 1043.
Senate Bill 1043.
And we have an amendment.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendments?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The amendments have been adopted. Please go ahead, Senator.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 1043 does three things to try to help the student mental health crisis that we're experiencing in the Commonwealth. A JLARC report released in November found that student mental health issues were one of the key problems facing our school divisions coming out of the pandemic. For last year, for example, 40% of high school students surveyed felt that they had felt sad or hopeless for 2 weeks or more. Of us, utmost concern is 13% of high school students and 10% of middle school students said they had seriously considered suicide last year. None of the three things in this bill will solve the problem completely, but each will help to start schools to get a better handle on the problem. First, the bill would allow the school divisions to hire clinical psychologists on a provisional license as schools psychologists, as long as they're on the path to becoming fully licensed. We do that in other fields right now, so it's extending that same idea to this. The path to the full licensure would be determined by DOE the same way it sets licensure requirements for other school positions. This would be something that was done last year with school counselors, and according to DOE is working well so far. Second, the bill would also direct DOE to work with behavioral health to develop and distribute a model MOU to help school divisions develop partnerships with community mental health providers. The JLARC report highlighted a few of these partnerships that were working well today, but also pointed out that sometimes they are complicated to set up. So having the state lay out the generally accepted partnership framework would help to facilitate this across all school divisions. And third, the bill deals with the largest single category of school mental health staff, school counselors. JLARC found that those staff spent quite a bit of their time on non-counseling activities. And so right now the code requires counselors spend at least 80% of the time on what is called direct counseling. However, there's no definition in the code of what activities actually qualify of counseling. And absent clear definition, counselors are asked to do things like supervise lunch, recess, cover classes, or administer academic testing. So those are all eating into counselor hours. And so those are the three main components, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions from committee members?
And the subcommittee amendment would also, just as a follow-up to that, I'm not sure if it was recommended for adoption yet, but it would consult the Virginia Academy of School psychiatrists and other stakeholders for that provisional process to make sure the appropriate professional folks are in the room for that guidance.
And we did adopt it,
Yep,
yes,
thank you.
thank you. If there are no questions from committee members, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of this bill? We have.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Troylyn Seward, and I'm with the Virginia Academy of School Psychologists, and we asked for the amendment because implementing this is not quite as easy as implementing the school council bill. You have to be accepted into the school psych program, which is a 60-hour EDS program, and it requires in some of that we have only 4 programs. And you have to take some courses in some of the programs in a certain sequence, and we are trying to work with the department. They had started some work on this because we are desperate for school psychologists. And it's very difficult to figure out, so they're trying to pull together people from the department, some of the trainers, at least one from each of the training programs, and some practicing school psychologists to try to figure out how we can handle this. So everybody's put these bills in. We're very appreciative because they're all trying to help us. We want to be sure we implement it in such a way that it does help us.
Please go ahead.
The program to which they have to be accepted, of which we only have 4, is there clinical time for that, or is it all didactic?
There is a year internship if you're just going to be a school psychologist, you're taking classes for 2 years and then a full year of internship.
Madam Chairman.
And it can be with those clinical psychologists. This is a best guess on my part. I think we could probably do a semester in the school as an internship, but I can't really speak to what the specific resolution of all this will be. But the clinical people certainly have background ready to go. It's just a matter of meeting the licensure requirements.
Madam
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Senator.
follow-up is that we're looking at this in other clinical settings as well, and I don't know what the clinical criteria are, but some of the things we're looking at in nursing is didactic, competency-based, so it can be done online at your own pace instead of in a classroom. And it's something that all of the 4 programs could offer.
And we have discussed that.
Yeah, and maybe that's an amendment to be considered between now and full committee, that they could look at seeing if they could work on that. I'll talk with the senator about it, because that is something that's tangible now after COVID. We know how to do this a little bit, and if this can be done online and we can let people move at their own pace, we might really make it a lot easier to get people through. And then I don't understand the clinical, but that's stacking clinical as part of figuring out how to do all of these clinical things. So it's just a thought to answer the obstacle to achieving this is maybe we can redesign.
Yes, we have discussed that, and we have done many things online, so that's one of the options we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm Emily Griffey with Voices for Virginia's Children. We support this legislation because we hear from students directly how important it is to be able to access mental health supports in their schools. Removing the barriers for folks to get into the field around school psychologists and counseling is important to young people, as well as accessing those community services, where we see this model MOU as a great example to allow community services and schools to work together. So I hope you will support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Lila Hiltz with the Virginia School Counselor Association, and we are in support of this bill and any legislation that would more efficiently utilize the resource of school counselors in Virginia. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Shane Riddle with Virginia Education Association. We have quite a few members in this category, so we do appreciate Senator McPike filing the bill. And we do support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any who wish to speak in opposition?
Move to recommend and refer.
Second.
It's been moved and recommended that it's been moved that we recommend for reporting with the full committee. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. So we will recommend for reporting next week, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to JLARC staff for their hard work in looking at different options and availability. The next is Senate Bill 1453, Madam Chair. And this is a bill that is sort of timely in the news. I think many people probably saw Damar Hamlin collapse on the football field several weeks ago. And that sort of spurred discussions in my community, and I know all across the country, in terms of AED placement. And so this code section right now was actually origins from a high school student, Gwyneth, that passed away almost 10 years ago. That was carried by Senator Stewart back in, I think, 2012 or so. And the original language has a may right now, and it's been 10 years. The cost and price point of AEDs has dropped dramatically. I mean, you're talking about what used to be like $8,000 is now $800 to $1,000. And I think it's time it's come that we make ensure our parents and to our kids that an AED is placed in all of our schools and made available. There are grants and foundations that can help schools also facilitate if those that feel this is hardship for the $800, but those seconds count when there's a collapse. And I do have some testimony that I'll submit from several parents who have lost kids in our public school system due to sudden cardiac arrest and incidents where that could have been a critical link. So I appreciate the committee's consideration, and you can see we've sort of changed the may to shall. Right now, they've already had it on the books for years to have a plan in place that we already have on the books, that there's schools, staff that are required to be trained that's already been on the books for a decade. And so we have all the ingredients and all the training already in place, except on the books, the one key ingredient, which is an AED, and that is really the last missing link of the chain of survival.
Thank you, Senator. I think that was my question. So you indicate that there is already training that's required so we don't need to include that in this particular change.
That's right. This has already been a part of the code of, like I said, for almost a better part of a decade now.
Okay.
And including the requirement at the time for schools that's when CPR was introduced to our school curriculum, so all of our kids come out and know how to do CPR as well as use an AED. And so it's been a longstanding practice. We have literally all the elements except for the one key device, and ensuring that they're in fact in our schools.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from committee members?
Just a curiosity, do you know how many schools don't have them? Do you have any idea?
Most schools have them. Now, frankly, it's really to get the assurance. And so others might speak to it. There are some requirements on athletics in schools, but making sure there's a consistent placement across our schools is what this bill seeks to do.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this particular bill? It looks like it's going to be a bill well supported. Do you want to just quickly say who you are and announce your support?
Very quickly, Madam Chairman, Becky Bowers on the air with the Athletic Trainers Association. It was an athletic trainer who shocked Damar Hamlin back to life. And I would say that not all schools have them. I don't have the data, but I know there are athletic departments that do not have them, and it is time. I totally agree with what Senator McPike is saying.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Brittany Whitley on behalf of the Virginia Association of School Nurses, and we strongly support the bill and thank Senator McPike for hearing it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Farrell. I'm a physician representing the Virginia chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, speaking in support. Been a sideline physician for our football team for a decade, and I can't stop these kids from trying to hit each other in the chest, so full support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Shane Riddle with the Virginia Education Association. We do strongly support the bill. We think it's a great bill. One thing we'd like to add, I know this is not finance, right? But this could possibly be a one-time expense and use the state portion of ESSER funds to help maybe with that. So we'd just like to make that comment for the record.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of this committee. J.T. Kessler on behalf of the Virginia School Board Association. We understand, what the intent of the bill is here. A little concerned about the cost and the replacement after the lifetime of the defibrillator. Our only ask may be for a one-year delayed enactment into implementing the bill, so our folks have time to plan for this.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question for the patron.
Please go ahead.
Is it in the code elsewhere that there's a required protocol for athletics?
I believe, Madam Chair, I can't, maybe council can verify, there, I believe, are some sub-provisions for school athletics programs in terms of being availability, but not necessarily specific to this topic in terms of trainers, and Becky and others might be able to speak to that more specifically.
Madam Chair, just with reference to that, there is a section in the code that provides for guidelines and policies and procedures on concussions in student athletes. There's a requirement for pre-participation physical examination, and there is a section of the code that deals with sudden cardiac arrest prevention in student athletes. But it appears that these just deal with certifying that students are fit to participate in athletic events and establishes guidelines. So there is nothing covering exactly what this bill seeks to do.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Senator?
It does. It just concerns me that I think one of the highest risk areas is in athletics, and an IAD that's 15 minutes back at the school may not be sufficient. So I don't know if it's a topic for today, but it's good to know. It does concern me.
Thank you, Senator. And Senator McPike, you had from one of our speakers, you had a request for a one-year delayed enactment. Is that something you would like to work on with the other stakeholders, or?
We can certainly do it. I mean, right now, already on the books, each school is already required to have a plan. And so if there's going to be a delay, I would suggest not a full year, but to January 1 of 2024, allowing sort of a 6-month, everybody understanding where the law's at and giving that amount of ramp-up time, I think would be sufficient. They're already supposed to have a plan on the books, and I've reviewed multiple school boards, and they do have plans already that outline what is supposed to happen in the event of a cardiac emergency. And so really all the elements is just about getting the placement and ensuring each school has them. That would be my recommendation, if acceptable to the subcommittee, would be a delayed enactment for January 1 of 2024.
I was just going to say, I don't see any need for delayed enactment at all. It's just puts kids at risk, so.
What if something happens?
Yeah.
I withdraw that bid.
I was giving you a chance to respond to our recommendation that was made, but we had an original motion to recommend for reporting, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we will recommend reporting next week, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Next on our list is Senator Favola, but I don't see her here. Let's hear from Senator Deeds then.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 1300. Senate Bill 1300 came to me from a 15-year-old at Maggie Walker, who's not able to be here today, Elijah Lee. You may have met him. He's been around. And this is a statement from him about the bill. Yeah.
Thank you.
What it essentially does is require, and there's one for you. Requires the Department of Education and the Department of Behavioral Health to come up with a course for training for trauma-informed care for educators. And it requires an in-person, once that training is developed, it requires it to be something that occurs in every locality. It requires an in-person training every year, and somebody from the School Board Association came by and was concerned about the in-person training, and I agree that in the world we live in, we can probably do it by Zoom. We can do something if you want to strike that. If you're inclined to go with the bill, if you like it, I think on line 45 you can just strike in person, and you can accomplish what we want. The childhood trauma encompasses a wide range of emotionally disturbing or distressing events, from parents divorcing, physical abuse, alcohol or substance abuse from a family member, mental illness by a family member. There are a lot of things, and this form of training was identified, at least by this 15-year-old, and sometimes the wisdom comes from the mouths of children, as something that is needed in our public schools. So that's the bill.
Thank you, Senator Deeds. I understand you are offering the opportunity to have an amendment that we include.
But that was brought to me by someone from the School Boards Association, and that's fine with me. I think in the world we live in, we can certainly we all participate probably more Zooms than we like.
I do have a question there. If you're willing to entertain doing an online training, but that is still a synchronous training, would it be also possible to do an asynchronous training where the training program is developed and created and someone can access it at their own time?
I think that makes sense. Sure.
Before we think about adding that as an amendment, let us hear from anybody who is, well, first of all, committee members, are there any questions or comments? Then anyone who is supportive of this bill 1300, SB 1300.
Good afternoon. Emily Griffey with Voices for Virginia's Children, and Elijah happens to be a young person that we've worked with as a youth advocate. You've probably seen him walking around the halls, sharply dressed, smart kid. He's a freshman at Maggie Walker and brought up this idea. He sent me some of his testimony that you have in front of you today. He says the reason why he thought of this is because Teachers are the ones that spend the most time with students, and it's necessary to give educators the supports they need to support students. Too many young people have fallen through the cracks, faced decades of abuse without any relief. Too many young people have suffered, unfortunately. We have the opportunity to help take care of that with some of this legislation, and hope that you will support this as well. So glad to have this good idea from a young person. What Voices has for a long time been in support of trauma-informed care, trauma-informed legislation. I hope this is something that the schools will consider as well. It may be something to look at, some one-time funds to help develop these training modules, and could be offered for teachers. So thank you.
Thank you. In support?
Chair and committee. I'm Tasha Steele. I'm with the Virginia Education Association, and we are in support of this bill. I also offer that I actually teach trauma-informed courses to administrators at Bluefield College, and in my former life, I was district supervisor of school counseling and implemented trauma-informed programs. So we are very much behind this. I could not say more than what the lady before me spoke, the words of the students. Oftentimes we hear from the adults as far as what our kids need, but there are many kids who feel that this is important, and I think that as educators understand more about things that our kids have experienced and how that shows up in the classroom, the better off our students can be and the better off they'll be as far as what they're able to learn and obtain.
Okay. Thank you. Are you speaking in support?
I'm certainly not opposing it.
Okay.
Stacey Ames, School Board Association. We did take the concern to the senator, and I just spoke with him. Our concern was with the annual and in-person, and so let me just speak to both. The in-person is a little bit troubling because a lot of times we can have these modules developed, like the asynchronous modules, or what happens if we give the time we give this training, a teacher is out, say on leave, maybe they've had a child and they're out on leave and then they didn't get the training. So I think everybody understands the in-person, and then the issue with the annual training, and I suggested perhaps 3 years as rather than doing it every year. We put a lot on our teachers. We have very few in-service days with our teachers each year. I know we are not thinking about asking our teachers to come in more days for this training. And so we have a limited time and a lot of different trainings we have to do. So I suggested once every 3 years. And so I hope that that's something that you would consider. But with those changes, I thank the senator for working with us, and that really does resolve our concerns. Thank you very much.
Is your recommendation to eliminate in-person training altogether then and have it purely as a asynchronous online training option?
We just don't specify. That way we can do it whichever
option,
way, and then instead of annually, I would ask maybe once every 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chairman, I move those amendments.
All in favor of the amended language? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Senator Deeds?
That's fine with me. I'd ask you to report the bill from there.
Okay. Is there,
Report as amended.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks very much.
It will be recommended. Thank you, Senator Deeds. And is Senator Favola here? Then Senator Bell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Bill SB 1072. This bill requires the school principal or their designee notify a parent within 24 hours of an alleged incident of bullying. Currently, principals have 5 school days to notify a parent of the status of a bullying incident. If you'll note in the bill, try to make it very easy. I remember when we debated this bill when I was in the House of Delegates, everyone agreed we needed to do this notification. We had a lot of debate over how to do it and how quickly it should be done, but everyone was in agreement it should be done. The time, I think, has come to move from the 5 days it's at now to 24 hours. And if you'll note in this bill, I wanted to make it where it's very easy. There's no requirement how the notification can be made. It can be an email, a telephone call, a text message, whatever's most convenient. It also says that it can be done by the principal or the designee. And it's important to note, wouldn't expect the principal to make the designation unless they know of the bullying incident reported from a counselor. The bottom line is we want to stop bullying. And the tragic incidents of bullying are everywhere. I'm a retired Air Force officer, and the thing I learned during my Air Force career, we often investigated accidents and aircraft accidents, and we found that there was typically a chain of events. Sometimes two things had to go wrong at the same time for an accident to occur. And we try to have a mindset, if we stop that chain, we can prevent the accident and save lives. I think that applies to this case of bullying. If we can get the parents involved, if there's even the hint of it, then they can possibly see what may be going on and they can intervene and get the child the help that they need. 24 hours, some may say, is not enough time, but I would argue what can go wrong in 5 days? That's a long time. The effects a child can experience from bullying can last them a lifetime of difficulty or can actually lead to ending a life. I want to give you a couple stats which are very alarming. 1 out of every 5 middle school or high school students report being bullied each year, 20%. It's a pretty high number. And frankly, cyberbullying has even made that worse. Children who are bullied, the stats support, are at increased risk of depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and even dropping out of school eventually. And then most tragically, children who are bullied are 2 times more likely to attempt suicide. I'm here today because of the death of a beautiful young man, Brody Alexander Watson. And I show you his picture. When I'm done, I'm going to ask his parents to please come forward and speak. Brody was bullied. Unfortunately, his family was not notified, and he committed suicide. He's a beautiful 12-year-old boy. His parents didn't find out until after his death. This band I wear is in honor of him. If we can just stop one child, if we can save one life, then our actions have really made a difference here. So I'm going to ask that you strongly consider this bill. Whatever inconveniences may happen to make this notification, I argue they're well worth it. Because if we save one life, if we prevent a family from going through this horror, it's worth it. A phone call, a text message, an email, whatever way notification is made, again, it can save that life and can break that chain of tragedy. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions from committee members?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Madam Chairman and Senator Bell, is there a definition in the code for bullying? I mean, I know it all seems self-evident, but do we have a definition?
I'm going to ask counsel to please respond on that because I know it talks about it in the upper portion, but I don't know that it gives a standard definition in this section of the code.
Madam Chair, there is a definition for bullying in the code. Reference is 22.1-276.01, and it defines bullying as any aggressive and unwanted behavior that is intended to harm, intimidate, or humiliate the victim, involves a real or perceived power imbalance between the aggressor or aggressors and victim, and is repeated over time or causes severe emotional trauma. Bullying includes cyberbullying. Bullying does not include ordinary teasing, horseplay, argument, or peer conflict.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Senator, you have family here to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Watson, and this is my wife, Wendy. I want to thank you all for giving me the time here to share our story. Less than a year ago, on February 24th, 2022, we tragically lost one of our twin sons, 12-year-old Brody Alexander Watson. As any parent would be, we were devastated, shocked, confused, and still are. Brody had never shown any signs of depression. He was incredibly kind. Strong, which I'm trying to be here, adventurous and active in sports, and a friend to everyone. In fact, he was the kid who stood up for so many others when no one would. We never thought this would happen to us, and are left with a lot of questions. Very quickly in the following days, we learned from other students and parents that Brody had been the target of an alleged bullying incident. We also found out that Brody, visibly upset, had gone directly to a school administrator and told them what was happening that morning. But we, his parents, had no idea, and we were never notified. Not that day, not that week, or next. If we had known that this was happening, we would have acted immediately to try to help Brody and work with the school to address the ongoing issues. We are confused and hurt as to why the school did not notify us, especially when we found out this had occurred on multiple occasions. We have since learned that Virginia law requires a school principal to notify a parent of any child involved in alleged bullying within 5 days of the allegation. 5 days is way too long, especially in today's always connected world of social media and with mental health cases rapidly increasing amongst children. A parent has the right to know what is happening with their child at school, and now it is time for all of us here to stand up for Brody like he did for so many others in his short life. In addition, I can't imagine any parent that would not want to know as soon as possible if their child is being bullied or accused of bullying another student. To this day, we are not certain why Brody's life ended on February 24th, 2022, but we do know the bullying occurred, and it did impact him. Would things have been different for Brody and our family if we had been notified that day? There's no way to know for sure, but I do know countless times a day I think about that what if. It's pain we never imagined or felt before. Despite that pain, we do feel very strongly we need to do what we can to help other kids and parents. And this will be a tribute to honor. This will be a tribute and honor to Brody's life. If passing this bill saves just one life, it is well worth the effort. And this is simply the right thing to do. And I'm going to have my wife finish it out. Thank you.
Hello, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. We ask that you vote for this bill and ensure parents are notified within 24 hours of any alleged bullying incident. Let's do what we can to prevent the pain our family and friends are going through right now from happening to more families. On behalf of myself, my husband Ashley, twin son Avery, and his brother Brody in heaven, I want to thank you for allowing us to share our story and the memory of our beloved sweet son. Our entire family and friends thank you for your support in helping address this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Watson, I think I speak on behalf of the entire committee that you have our deepest sympathies and condolences, and such respect for your courage in coming here today and sharing the pain and the grief that you are feeling, but that you are speaking out on behalf of not just Brody, but on behalf of so many children who do encounter this kind of trauma within their school system. So I thank you for your determination, especially as we come on this very painful one-year anniversary in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Give me just a second. Hi, my name's John Farrell. I'm here on the behalf of the Virginia chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm also a practicing pediatrician in Northern Virginia for 25 years, and Brody was my patient. As a physician, I felt obligated to hit you with statistics, but after listening to the testimony, I don't think you guys need me to list anything about the mental health care crisis going on in this world. As a physician, I am being asked, at least my personal experience is day after day by family after family, to assess their children for anxiety and depression. And it is sometimes overwhelming. I am seeing over the last 3 years a massive increase in both the frequency, severity, and object cruelty of bullying, and social media has enhanced and embellished this, to Senator Bell's statement. It can be insidious and it can be silent, and that's why I feel it's imperative to enlist the parents and let them be notified as soon as possible. That's the preventative medicine that I need. That's what I need to help combat this. So I think we can learn from this tragedy, and to echo those words, I think to honor Brody's memories, I speak in full support of this so that we can prevent it in the future. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell.
Madam Chair, Sherry Story from the Family Foundation. We strongly support this measure, and I wish Senator Spruill had been here, because this is one step we can take, looking to cut down on the mental health issues of our children. It's bullying, so you'd be really, really helping if you would pass this bill. We support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Good
Eileen
afternoon.
Roberts with Parents for Life. Of course, I support this bill, and I would like to be as bolder and ask the senator maybe to add an amendment that parents be notified not 24 hours before, but by the end of the school day.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Any comments from committee members? Senator, would you like to make closing comments?
My only closing comment is I ask that we do the right thing for children. I do think parents must be involved in these situations, and the sooner they're involved, the better. I also want to thank the Watsons for coming up. I can't imagine how difficult this was for them, but I really honor their courage and thank them for that, because they're trying to make something good kind of come out of something that was so personally tragic for them. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, one follow-up question.
Please go ahead, Senator.
Madam Chairman and Senator Bell, what is the consequence for failure to report for the school?
Madam Chair, we didn't really add a consequence from what was in the code before, because the code before addressed this at 5 days, and we didn't address a change in consequence. We just changed the timeline.
And maybe I'll just ask counsel then, because I looked through the language we had, and I don't think it says. I was scanning while I was listening. So.
Madam Chair, as far as I can tell, definitely not in this section, but there doesn't appear to be anywhere else a consequence listed for failure to notify.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
one thing I would add is I know my research on this was that it was mainly a civil, frankly, issue of liability if they did not do the notification within the timeline. And it could be a huge civil liability and risk they would be taking on if they didn't do this notification. But previously there wasn't a penalty of criminal nature in here. I didn't want to complicate it by adding that, but frankly, I do think, I hope that we have, I know we have people in our schools who care, and I think they would do the right thing to try to do this quicker, but I do think the risk to school systems of a major civil penalty, they would be wide open to a lawsuit if they didn't make these notifications.
Are there any other questions or comments? It's been moved and seconded that we recommend for reporting this bill. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you all.
And next among our list here is Senator Chase.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. I want to first of all thank you for giving us, you don't hear me okay? There we go. First of all, I want to begin by thanking the chair and members of the committee for giving us an extra week on Senate Bill 832. Just a quick overview to remind you what the bill was. This is educational transparency in our public schools. And
excuse me, Senator Chase, did you have any amendments then? Because that was the understanding
Yes.
that we had last
Yes.
week.
And that's what I'm following up with. So we will have amendments. I'm working with Mr. Riddle. He has a committee of folks with a VEA that he meets with, and they meet biweekly. And he said that he would like the opportunity to meet with that committee. They have not met this past week, but they will. But he is agreeing to sit down with me and go over any objections, and we're going to make amendments with that recommendation.
So, Senator Chase, are you asking for an extension for one more week?
Yes, please.
Okay. I believe we'll be able to accommodate you. I think next week will be the last week that we have, and if there are any financial impacts, then that may put the bill in jeopardy, just depending on the timeline for the finance committees. But we will pass this by for another week then.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I thank Mr. Riddle for working with me on this bill. Are you ready for me to present Senate Bill 823?
We are, thank you.
Okay. I'm sure you've seen this bill before, educational savings accounts. This is Senate Bill 823, and this bill permits the parent of a public preschool, elementary, or secondary school student who meets certain criteria to apply to the school division in which the student resides for a 1-year renewable parental choice educational savings account that consists of an amount that is the equivalent to a certain percentage of all applicable annual standards of quality per pupil state funds appropriated for public school purposes and apportioned to the resident school division in which the student resides, including the per pupil share of state sales tax funding and basic aid and any state per pupil share of special education funding to which the student is eligible. The bill permits the parent to use the monies in such account for certain educated-related expenses of the student, including tuition, deposits, fees, and required textbooks at a private sectarian or non-sectarian elementary or secondary school or preschool that is located in the Commonwealth and does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, or national origin. This bill also contains provisions relating to auditing, rescinding, and reviewing expenses made from such accounts. Madam Chair, members of the committee, each child should have the opportunity to succeed in school and in life. After the pandemic, as researchers report steep learning losses across grade levels and subjects, the call for quality learning options is especially urgent. Educational savings accounts empowers parents with the ability to meet every family and child's unique educational needs and should be available to all school-age children. Students need options such as ESAs more than ever. The three key takeaways are that number one, steep post-pandemic learning losses across grade levels and subjects clearly show that parents need more options for their children to receive a quality education. Second, education savings accounts not only are the most inclusive learning option, but they also empower parents to meet their child's unique education needs. Three, more states should follow Arizona's example and equip all students with the option of using ESAs to get the best education for their children. And there are a number of states that are already doing this, to include we have Arizona, we have West Virginia, who fully have implemented this. There are other states, 5 other states that actually include this for children that are disabled. So this is already actually being done in other states. But for students, every child is different and has different learning needs. Parents and students can use an account to customize a child's education. Students can take classes online for part of the day, work with a personal tutor in the afternoon, and participate in public school extracurricular activities after school. Students can attend private school full-time, but as the research demonstrates, one-third of account holders in Arizona are using educational saving accounts for multiple educational products and services simultaneously. Students that struggle with certain materials can use an account to find additional learning resources or instruction to help them catch up. For students looking to get ahead of their peers, they can use an account to do so. These accounts are as flexible and challenging as students and parents need the accounts to be. And as far as the parents are concerned, the accounts give parents a new way to help their children when their school district may not be a good fit for their child, like we hear in instances of kids being bullied at school. Families that cannot change their neighborhood or have no other public school option for their child have little recourse when their child falls behind in class, is bullied by other students, or simply needs more personally tailored learning options. Education savings accounts give parents the ability to finance multiple learning options for their child. These options can be as straightforward as a new school or can include several learning opportunities each day. With an account, parents need not wait until the next school year for a different class placement or hope the school administrators will intervene. They can decide immediately about where and how a child learns. And then finally, from the taxpayers, each of the 6 state education savings account laws have unique provisions, especially concerning that state's school finance formula. However, without exception, education savings account awards per students are education savings account awards per student are less than the state's average per student funding. On average, across taxpayers, each child fund is funded at a lower per student amount than if the child had attended a district public school. And in fact, in Arizona, legislative analysts report that each child with special needs using an account saves Arizona taxpayers $1,400 per child. And I'm going to cut to the chase here.
So to speak.
Just in my final comments on this would be, we've already got a number of states that are doing this. We are not the first state that would implement this program. And I think with the technology that we have, we really do want to give parents more options. I know as a mom myself with 4 kids, 3 very active boys, we all know as parents that kids learn differently, and in this day and time with the current technology that we have, and as someone who has done private school, public school, and homeschool during different seasons of my kids' lives, it is great for us to have that type of flexibility, and I would love to see Virginia join the states that give parents that flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chase. Are there any questions or comments from the committee members?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Senator Chase, so the bottom line to Senate Bill 823 is that public money would be used to fund private education?
Not necessarily. I had my kids in public school as well.
I just need a yes or no answer.
It allows the money to follow the child. It does use the state proportion that is budgeted at the SOQ formulas.
So, yes, it would be using public dollars to fund private education?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of parents cannot afford a private school education, but they would like the flexibility. So,
please go ahead.
Madam Chairman, Senator Chase, am I reading this correctly that this is a very limited pool of qualified students? It's below 300% of the poverty level. They have to have been in school for 2 semesters, so somebody that was homeschooling couldn't just step up and ask for the money. And they have to be within their own school division.
That is correct. And they have a certain time period, and I'm looking for that in my notes, but it's an annual thing that you have to sign up for every year. It's not continuous. You have to sign up for it every year during the period of time, and that is correct.
So, Madam Chairman, Senator Chase.
Yes, please go ahead.
So I think I think that's an important part of this, because these are families who cannot move. And so many of our families in Virginia have the opportunity to move to a better school district, but these are families that their kids, we've talked about the zip code data ad nauseum, but, to predestine a child to a set of outcomes in life because their parents are in need of the state's help with housing, and therefore they must go to the zip code associated school, is part of how we are erasing opportunity from the get-go. You should never be predestined to die 20 years sooner or have less good outcomes than other people who live in your same community just because you don't get to make any decisions about where you live and therefore go to school.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from committee?
Just a comment question, I guess. I think we've seen this bill before, and I think it was Senator Reeves' bill last year. Is that correct?
I am actually not sure if it was or not.
He's nodding his head, yes.
Similar bill, not quite the same language. Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just have a comment. We could certainly use the resources that's being asked for in this legislation to better the schools, pay teachers better, and better the families in those zip codes.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone here to speak in support of the bill?
Madam Chair, again, committee, Sherry Story. I represent the Family Foundation, and we support this bill. I think you might see the bill come up more often until we can close some of those achievement gaps, and also parents just want choices. You know, it's sort of part of our world. We have so many choices. You look on your phone and you have choices, and I think choice is becoming just part of more of our norm. So we strongly support the bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Wow. Okay. Let's limit the comments to 10 minutes total. So if you can please limit your comments, be concise, precise, and share why you do not support the legislation, that would be wonderful.
Madam Chair, Stacey Haney with the Virginia School Boards Association. We have a long-standing position in opposition to bills such as this. Many reasons. I'll just give you one. And it's one of the things that Senator Locke alluded to is what this legislation will do is divert funding away from our public schools, and particularly in the case of public schools that are struggling, that is a real concern. And so we would ask that you not advance the legislation.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair. I'm Marcy Shea, member of the Henrico County School Board. I think everyone in this room has the same goal, which is for the best possible outcomes for all of our students. My main concern is using public funds for programs that are not accountable to the same standards as public schools. Without infrastructure in place, this would siphon off funds from students without accountability or transparency. Before you consider moving forth with this bill or some of the other similar bills, please consider guardrails in place that require any school that accepts public funds to be accountable to public school standards.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate O'Grady. I'm with the Virginia Education Association. I just wanted to say that vouchers and ESAs actually increase segregation and discrimination in schools, and they do divert public school money into private schools and charter schools. There was I think it was the previous bill, voucher bill, that provided payment for $4,000. While it doesn't set private school tuitions to match that exclusively, making parents have to cover that gap, and then excluding lowest income people. There's also no program in the country that protects against LGBTQ students, and so they're therefore discriminated against as well.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and committee members, thank you. My name is Julie Briskman. I am the supervisor on the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. I come before you today, though, as a member of the Virginia Association of Counties Board of Directors. And we vehemently oppose this bill and blatant attempt to defund public schools and undermine public education. 823 would divert funds from local school divisions to give parents to use at non-public education establishments that could be religious or private. Until the state fully funds education as constitutionally mandated, the state should not siphon off money for private use. Virginia Municipal League and the VACO Board urges the committee to oppose this bill that would divert those funds for non-public education. We would encourage you to pass by indefinitely this bill and not move it forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
My name is Olivia Jaho. I'm from the Virginia Education Association, and I also want to oppose this bill for a number of reasons. One being that students are predestined to have more difficult times succeeding in life because we don't fund our schools already. So if we want to talk about making it difficult for students to succeed, I think we need to talk about funding our schools fully and lifting the support cap. But I also want to speak to the fact that research has found that Wisconsin's K-12 voucher program actually shortchanged public schools and created a significant financial threat. A University of Virginia study found no benefit for students attending private schools, including students from low-income and urban settings. And a large proportion of the most rigorous studies suggest that being awarded a voucher or an ESA has an effect that is statistically indistinguishable from zero. So it actually doesn't benefit students to attend private schools.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Shane Riddle with the Virginia Education Association. I realize we had a person from the VEA. I'll make different points, primarily on the basis of a few examples in Arizona. And listen, I respect the senator, right? But we have strong opposition to this bill and also another bill, but the same testimony. We call these bills super voucher bills because they greatly expand the application of public funds beyond private school tuition, like other educated related goods or services. And recall that in Arizona, auditors discovered that over $700,000 in taxpayer money had been improperly spent through the voucher program there. So not only that, but audit requirements, accountability requirements for how this money is spent, and properly accounting for that. We feel like that's missing. Even with programs that perform audits and accountability by subcontracting that out, that we have seen problems in like states like Oklahoma. And on the cost, one example on the cost, in New Hampshire, when this program was when it was launched, a comparable program to this legislation, the cost was predicted to be $130,000, but ended up being closer to $15 million in taxpayer funding. So those are just a few points. So we at the VEA do oppose this legislation, and we appreciate your vote to pass it by indefinitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. We have 4 minutes remaining on the clock, so tick-tock. No, not that kind of tick-tock.
I am Tasha Steele, and I am representing myself as a resident of Henrico County, as well as a parent. And I echo what Senator Locke said, as well as many of those who came before me. I did hear the senator who introduced the bill say that the bill does not discriminate. However, private schools do discriminate. Not all of them, but again, someone spoke to how they don't have the same standards that the Virginia Department of Education applies to all schools. And so we have to take that into consideration as well. Okay. Our students have lots of differences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Laura Gorin with the Commonwealth Institute. We oppose this bill because as the research on these experiments has grown around the country, we see increasing evidence that actually students do worse who participate in these programs. A study of the NEO voucher program in Louisiana that began in 2012 reveals that it results in lower language arts and math scores for low-income students who enrolled in private schools. And I'll summarize one of the studies. They said that participation substantially reduces academic achievement. Attendance at a Louisiana scholarship program eligible private school lowers math scores by 0.4 standard deviations and increases the likelihood of a failing math score by 50%. Voucher effects for reading, science, and social studies are also large and negative. Similarly, a study of the voucher program in Indiana found that voucher students experience an average achievement loss of 0.5 standard deviations in mathematics during their first year of attendance compared with matched students who remained in a public school. This loss persisted regardless of the length of time spent in a private school. In English and language arts, we did not observe statistically meaningful effects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Josette Bolova with the Virginia Municipal League. We are appreciative of the expansion of opportunities for innovation, but we do have a longstanding position opposing any attempt to divert funds from localities and public schools for private use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Jeremy Bennett, representing the Virginia Association of Counties, VACO. In the interest of brevity, I'll say that we have a long-held position, and we oppose the diversion of public funds from public schools.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may just simply say we oppose.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the brevity. Thank you so much for everyone adhering to the time limit. I appreciate that. And I will just add my personal comments. Because this bill is was coming up along with other similar bills, I've been looking extensively at the research around these kinds of programs, and I just echo the sentiments that many of our speakers shared. The research is showing that there is no improvement on student outcomes, student learning, and in fact that it can be detrimental to the collapse of a public education system in its entirety within a state, and it has some serious repercussions. This is a defunding of a very, very critical public good, and so I know the research seems to be indicating that we need to strengthen our public schools. We need to have a system that is effective for all students in the communities, and diverting funds to different funding streams, some going to private hands for private education systems that don't have accreditation, that don't have responsibility to assess and report learning, is a very serious concern. So, Senator, I will allow you final comments, and then we will wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. The taxpayer funds come from we the people. Not just a couple people, but everybody is mandated that they have to pay taxes. And yet parents who have kids in failing schools are going to be stuck with no other options. We've had an opportunity to fully fund all of our public schools, but we haven't done it. And yet these kids still remain in the same situation. Their zip code is going to determine the outcome, and we're trying to make that change. You cannot affect change by doing the same things. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same things we've already done. And this is a one-size-fits-all educational model that needs more options for the times that we're in, new technology. And so those would be my encouragement in this day and time in 2020 when we have so many options using technology. Parents, not every parent can afford to put their kid in a private school. A lot of parents who have disabled kids, they want more options. We have less teachers in our schools. There's definitely a shortage, and you've got more kids per classroom, and parents feel trapped right now with their kids in failing schools. They can't get teachers, and what am I going to do? This gives parents an option that are in those failing schools. So thank you for consideration.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to pass by indefinitely Senate Bill 823. Second.
The motion has been made and seconded that this bill be passed by indefinitely. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It's 3-1. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, is Senator Favola arrived? Okay, we will hear then from Senator Reeves, and that's SB 1191.
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, my bill is very, very similar to Senator Chase's bill, but, and I can read the writing on the wall. I've been here long enough, but I am curious to have some questions answered because I don't sit on education and health, and I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything else, but I heard a lot of testimony just then. It'll be the same testimony you'll hear on my bill, so I'll just cut through it all. How much is it to fully fund education? Every year we come back for more and more education, Madam Chair, and I'm being 100% real here. What is that number?
Well, we have the chair of Senate Finance here.
Thank you.
Putting you on the spot.
Madam Chair, but I'm curious to know what the number is.
I don't know.
Madam.
Significantly more than we are. And we have a long, long list of priorities we're hoping to fund.
As soon as we get out of here, yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, rather than speak to the bill, can I just make some comments and then we can move forward and dispose of the bill?
We will be happy to entertain your comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just say, I would disagree wholeheartedly with some of the statements that were made about private school. I think you all know I had a son that was a page here. COVID hit, he could not learn distance. My wife and I had to make a very difficult decision to put savings money to send him to a school where he could get in class. We made that sacrifice. But I can't retire because we made that kind of sacrifice to a well-known private school. But he did great, and he thrived, and now he's in college, and he's doing well. We also have other plans out there for college tuition, Coverdale, 529s, those sort of things. So I think at some point, we as a legislative body have to work with those that are opposed to ever touching anything to figure out other ways to help disadvantaged families and parents educate their kids, because one size doesn't fit all. And I'm afraid we are losing some of these kids that are falling farther and farther behind. And I'm not saying my bill is the correct bill to do that. It's very detailed. It does a lot of things. But at some point, I think we owe it to the parents out there, because ultimately they're the ones that are responsible for our kids till they're 18, to give them some other choices. I don't have those. I'm not an educator. But we have to start thinking in that direction. Madam Chair, with that, I yield to the committee.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any comments or questions? Senator Locke?
I don't disagree with you, Senator Reeves. I raised a nephew who could not function in public schools. So, but I did not come to the state to say, can you help me pay for this child's education? I decided to do that. So, and there are a lot of our children out there who are suffering because the state refuses to do its part.
I agree.
Because it's diverting funds to do other things rather than pay for our schools. That's the problem. And it's diverting those funds to corporations, corporate tax cuts and everything else. Why not pay for our schools? Several years ago, when I first got here, I tried to put in a bill to do exactly what the question you asked. How much would it cost to fully fund our schools? To fully fund SOQs.
What was the number?
My bill went into the trash can, because folks didn't want to know the answer. Had we done it, we wouldn't be sitting here debating this right now.
Madam Chair.
We need to know the answer to the question so we can do it.
Senator Locke, I'm all for figuring out the solution to the problem. Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
There's two ways to solve a problem: a technical solution or an adaptive challenge. This is an adaptive challenge, which means we got to broaden the amount of people that get to this discussion and the expectations and spread the time horizon out. And I'd be happy to work with my colleagues to do that.
Thank you, Senator Reeves.
If I might just
Please go
add,
ahead.
one of the priorities that we have is to increase funding for preschool and actually all the way to pre-birth to help get better educational results. So that is one of the things actually finance is looking at now.
Thank you,
Madam
Senator.
Chairman, if I may.
Please, Senator.
I will simply say that the aspiration to fully fund is so nonspecific, it's impossible to have a conversation. And I think we need to leave that language on the table and move forward with an open conversation, because we should also be paying for outcomes. And we're not there either. So there are language matters, and what we talk about, how we set our goals, determines whether or not we'll achieve them. But I think that the conversation about fully fund, I'm sorry to say it, it's old, it's nonspecific, it's not entirely relevant. We need to fund our schools adequately so that we can get the outcomes that we want. And those would be my remarks.
Thank you, Senator. I would just disagree with the idea that fully funding is nonspecific. We have key areas in our education system that we know need funding. We need to invest funding in modernizing our schools. We need to adequately pay our teachers. We need to invest in the new technologies. We need to ensure that we have enough support staff. We need to ensure that children are fed. We need to ensure that families have the opportunity to live in thriving communities. There's areas of clearly identified need that we have in Virginia, and I think it's safe to say that several of us have been attempting to put in budget language as well as legislative priorities to ensure that we're moving in the right direction, that we're doing what we need to do for our families and our children, and that is the top priority, in fact, for many of those of us in the legislature, and I would hope that we get as much support as possible to focus on education. We know it's the top priority as a public good, and until we invest properly, we're not going to see the kind of changes that we need to see in Virginia. So I think we agree that we need to fund and that we need to fund adequately, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to invest some of those billions of dollars that Virginia has this year and do what we all know that we need to do. Is there a motion on the floor for this bill?
Madam Chairman, I have one more comment.
Yes, Senator.
I would just say that I think, despite differences in how we get to things, that everybody at the legislature is putting in bills to attain the goal of making it better for families. And I would also point out that everything you listed is a specific demonstrative item that we can have a conversation about, and I think we do. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're all in agreement in that. Thank you very much. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move to recommend pass by indefinitely.
Second.
It's been moved that we recommend passing by indefinitely. All in favor? Aye. No. 3 ayes and 1 no.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, moving along then, I don't see Senator Boysko here. I will do, and do you have any? Okay. I will turn over chairmanship to Senator Locke and present.
Okay, Senator Hashmi, I believe you have a few bills to take up.
Well, first, Madam Chair, if I can make the motion to strike SB 1007, I will be striking that.
Okay, Senator Hashmi has moved that Senate Bill 1007 be stricken from the docket. Oh, we will recommend that to the full committee. Okay. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we recommend SB 1007 be stricken. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. So, go ahead.
Madam Chair, the bill I would like to first present is SB 890. This is the Veterans Teaching Licensure Program. This bill creates a state fund and a program to support our veterans and service members, helping them to transition to teaching in public education, helping them also to receive their teaching license. And as we well know, teacher capacity in Virginia is significantly down 10% or more in many of our localities, and more of our teachers in the Commonwealth are actually teaching on provisional licenses. And this bill provides funding for veterans who are seeking to acquire a teaching license to be able to move through the process in a better and expedited manner. It provides an avenue for transition for veterans to the workforce, and it also honors our veterans for their service by providing a source of funding for professional studies courses that do lead to teaching licensure. Virginia has currently a veteran population that exceeds 700,000 members, with approximately 10,000 who are seeking employment. We can help to address the crisis that we have in our teaching workforce, as well as support our military veterans and improve the education outcomes for thousands of children as a result. And I have some individuals here who would like to speak in support of the bill.
Okay, those who are in support.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, David Bailey, speaking on behalf of the Virginia Association of Colleges and Teacher Educators. I want to thank the patron for introducing the bill, and let you as a subcommittee know that the colleges of teacher education in Virginia are the ones that approached the senator about putting the bill in, because they realize that they cannot have enough graduates who will stay in the Commonwealth to begin to fill the needs that we have now and the needs of the future. I've heard, as you all have over the years, of how we are a veteran-friendly state. And we think this is a good measure, that it's a measure that will help. The folks in career and technical education are excited about the bill because they think that some of these veterans will be ones that will, if they follow through and do this, will be teaching in their areas. I think other veterans will be qualified to teach in some of the hard-to-fill areas that are needed. So we thank you for the bill. Senator Hoshman, we thank you, subcommittee, and encourage your support for the bill.
All right, thank you. Others in support?
Madam Chair, I'm John Sisworth with Virginia Professional Educators. Our association represents a number of ROTC, junior ROTC instructors around the state and other veterans. What we found is that these veterans are excellent teachers, they're very strong leaders, and they're great role models, not only for students, but also for junior faculty. So we urge you to support the bill. Also, we believe this bill addresses the shortage of teachers. So it's a great bill, and we ask you to support it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shane?
Real quickly, Shane Riddle with the Virginia Education Association. We do support the bill.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone here in opposition? Okay. Committee members, any comment?
Move to report.
Okay. Moved and seconded that Senate Bill 890 be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed. Okay. Your next bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next bill is SB 935. This particular bill comes out of a recommendation that was produced by many folks in VDOE, as well as teachers and other educators who are involved in the process of developing recommendations for what we need to do to address some of the situations that we are facing in Virginia with regard to not just our workforce issues, but quality of professional life for our educators, and also the teacher licensure program. And this particular legislation then seeks to require or ask it requires VDOE to develop and maintain an accessible and streamlined teacher licensure website. There is a website already available, of course, that has wonderful resources and great information, but the information can always be improved. The website technologies can be improved. We can have online applications that streamline the process in a more expeditious manner. In doing some research, the report had indicated that many folks who are new to the teaching profession oftentimes face barriers in understanding what the next steps are in the process of licensure. There is sometimes confusion, and they face roadblocks, and some people give up. So this would ask our VDOE to improve the systems that are in place on the website, and also to maintain a system or develop a system so that teachers can also keep track of their professional development credentials, that those credentials are also then easily available to our schools, our school districts, and that there is a better and more efficient process than in terms of the licensure system that we have in place.
Are there questions or comments to Senator? Those here in support of Senate Bill 935.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to jump up really quickly on this and say thank you very much. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you very much. We have a department at our teaching and learning. We have a teaching and learning department at the VEA, and I know that when they hear this, they will be very, very excited. They work with our inspiring educators, as well as all educators. But thank you for this, and we do strongly support this bill.
Anyone here in opposition? Okay, we need a motion on Senate Bill 935.
Move to report.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 935 be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That will be recommended for reporting.
Thank you. And we got Senator Boysko. Please come on.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute dealing with 1102.
Second, the amendment has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. I won't take long. We talked about this last week. This is the education for K through 12 education regarding hazing, and we have worked out what we believe will be effective and workable for the schools. So the Department of Education proposes to create a work group with the Department of Health and Human Resources and other stakeholders to evaluate options for implementing a hazing prevention training program in middle and high schools to be developed and implemented by each local school board in accordance with 22.1-279.9 in the code. And it lays out the stipulations of what should be included in the work group. We know, you know that my constituent, Adam Oakes, died after a terrible hazing accident. We did Adam's Law in the colleges last year. This would provide some more robust education for younger students because we want them to understand what hazing is and to stop hazing in Virginia.
Thank you, Senator. And are there any questions and comments from the committee members? So, Senator Boysko, this is essentially changing the original bill to a work group to examine as we go forward.
That is correct. At first, I believe we were probably too prescriptive in trying to say exactly when, where, and how the classes would be done. This gives our educators and stakeholders some opportunity for collaboration and input and autonomy so that they can make this work for their communities as best as possible. And
thank you. Senator?
Is there fiscal impact for this, a budget amendment needed?
Let me look before I speak, because sometimes I do not.
I didn't see one, but it's in substitute, so I didn't know.
We have a placeholder budget amendment to cover the costs.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone who would oppose this legislation? Speak now or hold your peace forever. Okay. So the issues have been resolved now. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend for reporting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Howell's an aye as well. Okay, 4 ayes then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
Appreciate
Boysko.
your service.
Thank you. I know, and I should have announced this earlier, my apologies if anyone was here for Senator Peake. He did have to leave early today, so he will not be presenting. I did see Senator D-Step here.
I just text to see, and I told him to come.
Is he coming? Okay. And his bill is similar to what we heard around school choice from Senator Chase. Yes, if you can. I know she wanted to pass one bill by for the week, and it may be that she wants to pass her other bills as well, but if you can text her, that would be, just to confirm, that would be good. Thank you.
So it's just for Lola and stuff? Yes. What happened to Norman?
Well, I can text him.
Can you text him? He was so happy with his first bill.
transportation with
Yes,
I
no.
had to chair it because Senator Marsden had a very controversial bill.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, my apologies.
No apologies needed.
Okay, let's see, what are we doing here?
And Senator, you are passing one bill by for the week.
I am. Did you want me to?
Which number is that?
That was the 9, let me pull out my.
18. Yeah.
That's the one that's.
We're going to pass that by.
Please, yeah, we're still negotiating on that. So the two bills I'd like the committee to hear, I guess I'll start with the lower number, is Senate Bill 1257. And there is an amendment.
I move to adopt the amendment.
Move to adopt the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The amendment has been adopted.
Okay. What this bill does is it actually specifically spells out what counseling activities are and what they comprise of in the K through 12 setting. My amendment removes lines 28 and 29, which talk about fair share responsibilities. It just doesn't have a place in the construct of what we're trying to achieve. So as you know, current law actually requires that a counselor employed by a school board in a public or elementary school system spend at least 80% of his time in direct counseling, and then up to 20% during, or may spend up to 20% during normal school hours on program planning and school support. But we felt there was a need to spell out what counseling actually meant. That's the purpose of the bill. This is a recommendation of the Joint Commission on Healthcare.
Please, Senator.
How is this? No, I apologize. The Joint Commission on Behavioral Health.
Okay.
Not healthcare, behavioral health.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and maybe council. Isn't this a lot like the McPike bill we passed before? Is it different or the same?
Madam Chair, this bill, so SB 1257, combined with Senator Fevola's SB 1268, do comprise a part of 1043. The key difference is that 1043 does include an added section, 22.1 to 72.2, that is the requirement for the memorandum of understanding. And I think that's the only difference between the two.
What is the memorandum of understanding that is in Senator McPike's bill?
I can explain it if you like. Madam Chairman and Senator Favola, it's having the Board of Education design the standard MOU that school divisions can use to make it easier for them to contract with private sector to refer out some of these issues and utilize community services. It's been an obstacle for localities to work through the MOU process.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I also forgot to mention that with this amendment, it also makes it differ from Senator McPike's. So with the striking of the definition for fair share responsibilities.
Which of course the Virginia Association of School Counselors asked me to strike the definition of fair share.
So Senator Favola, Senator McPike's bill came out of the JLARC study is what he had indicated, but yours is coming out of the Department
Well, mine's coming out of the Joint Commission on Behavioral Health, which also based this recommendation on JLARC.
Okay.
So they're coming from the same base of resource. And
So if I could ask staff, we have three bills then, 1257, 1268, and then McPike's 1043 that are essentially in the same part of the code and making slightly different changes to the code.
Yes, those slightly different changes. In Senator Fevola's bill where she strikes fair share responsibilities, and then in Senator McPike's where he includes the section regarding the memorandum of understanding are the two differences between
Senator Favola's 2 bills and Senator McPike's 1 bill.
And I do have an amendment to Senate Bill 1268.
1268.
Madam Chair, that amendment that adds the final enactment clause is also the same as the amendment to Senator McPike's bill.
Okay. So it looks like the only difference then is I struck the fair share responsibilities, and he has the MOU language with the State Board of Education. Do you want me to roll my bills into his, or?
I think it would be best if we do that, in the intervening week before we present to full committee, that we have you as well as Senator McPike work with staff to incorporate the different changes and to have a one bill since it's
So
the same.
Senator McPike's bill was deferred or delayed?
The one that you did earlier here?
Yeah, no, it was recommended.
We
for report
recommended
unanimously.
Right. We recommended for reporting.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm happy to roll my 2 bills into Senator McPike's and be the chief co-patron, but I would like the fair share responsibility to come out.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, maybe we could recommend reporting these 2 bills since we've already considered the material and let you guys work that out before Thursday at full, and we can. Correct.
Okay,
That's what I meant to say, is that you take the week to
Appreciate
do
you
that.
rolling them at the full committee.
Yes.
That would be fine.
Okay.
I'll be chief co, but could you offer my amendment to remove the language fair share responsibility?
Didn't we do that?
No,
No.
this is new. We did adopt, we did adopt your
Okay,
your
so you'll have to
amendment.
adopt that, though, at the full committee. Okay.
It will be part of the recommendation when we present. Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, I'm fine with that.
So for SB 1257, the motion is that we recommend with amendment. All in favor? Aye. And for SB 1268, we have the same motion. All in favor? Aye. And we go forward then with the understanding that you will be working with Senator McPike, and we'll see all 3 bills in full committee next week.
Okay,
And
you
bring
can-
them together.
You can ask that my 2 be rolled. Don't forget
Yes.
to remember the amendment, mention it to the committee.
We will
I'm
not.
sure you won't. You guys are perfect, but
Well, we're not perfect.
yeah.
Yes,
happy
I
to do
think it's best if you speak, and you may need to be present at committee that morning just to.
Yeah, happy to do that. Okay, well, this was quite easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
It's important to know when you're.
Yes, Senator.
Senator Norman has requested his bill go by for the week.
Okay.
I don't know where his stuff is.
He's right in front of you.
Oh, yay.
Senator Disto, please come ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is just a technical amendment to revise.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I noticed that. So I was going to just change it, but I'm not sure if it needs to be changed at this point. We'll find out in about 4 minutes. So.
Thank you, Senator. This is
Madam Chair.
SB 1290, and you have an amendment, is that correct?
We have a technical correction, but I wouldn't even bother reading it since I'm sure I have a pretty good feel where this may be going. This is basically a school education savings account, and it allows parental choice where the money can go into an account with a financial institution that's a certified financial institution, and that money can be used for private schools, uniforms, tuition fees, et cetera, anything that would, books that would go to assisting in education of a child. Now, I will tell you that there are parental rights groups that fully support it. There are, I believe it's the teachers union, the superintendent's union. There's about 6 different groups that are against it. So I'm sure you've heard at least one bill similar to this. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, 2. So we don't really need to hear from everybody on either side. I'm I don't want to trespass on your time. If you are predisposed to this, it's not a difficult bill to read. It's not a difficult concept to understand. And if you've already seen this twice, I'm sure you pretty much already know what you feel about this bill before I go into any excruciating details, so I will spare the committee on that.
We don't mind excruciating details in this committee, Senator, but, but you are
That's why I left
correct.
about 45 minutes ago to go back to my other committee.
You are correct that this bill seems to be almost identical with the bill that Senator Chase presented, and we had extensive discussion, and we heard testimony from those who opposed the bill. So because of that, I will jump right to a motion, if that is okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
Pass by Senate Bill
1290.
Pass it by indefinitely.
And I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Powell is an aye.
Pete? Well, I'm sorry, he's not here.
He's so we will recommend that it be passed by indefinitely next week at the
Thank you for
full
your time,
committee.
and I hope I didn't trespass on too much of it.
You did not.
So have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, I believe we have completed today's docket, and the committee is adjourned. Thank you to everyone who was here today.